takes it in overtime. Brady can jump, breakaway shoots, scores!
Welcome to Sens Talk. My name is Brandon and I am your host. Today, we're going to take a look at the 6 leading candidates to be the next owners of your Ottawa Senators. I'm going to take a look at the top 3 contenders, in my opinion, based off of the reports, what we know, and then the other 3 groups. All 6 have a good chance to be the next owners of the Ottawa Senators. I want to say that right now, but as you will see throughout the video, I have reasons to believe certain groups have a better shot at being the next owners than others. Let's remember that the Melnyk family and the board of directors in the Senator organization have the final say on who will get the preferred bid. After that, of course, the bid will go to the Board of Governors in the National Hockey League for the quote-unquote approval. We all know that once the organization picks the group, whoever is picked will likely be approved by the Board of Governors. They've never rejected an owner, so it's basically just a formality. So basically my point is my quote-unquote rankings from this video is based off of not only my personal opinion, but also the realities of what's been reported and who or not has a better chance to be selected by the Melnyk family. But before we get into today's video, I have a very exciting announcement. We are now sponsored by Owl & Co. Grooming. This is a big-time sponsorship. We've been working behind the scenes over the last few weeks with Chris St. Clair, the owner of Owl & Co. And I gotta say, I believe in the product and I believe in the man behind the product. Big-time Sens fan. But most importantly, the product itself is naturally made, and here's the best thing, locally made. So it's a local small business you're supporting, and a Sens fan local business at that. Most importantly, you guys know I don't push products if I don't believe in them or use them. I've used this before and I believe in this product as well. It's all natural, it's locally made, so that's 2 massive pluses for me, but it also smells fantastic. I mean, I use a sea salt spray with a cedar scent. Myself and Miss Sens Talk absolutely love it. Cannot recommend it enough. So if you go to owlandcogrooming.com, use the code SensTalk15, you will save 15% off your order today. Once again, it's a local product, it's naturally made, and a Sens fan is behind the product. All 3 massive W's. Support the company, check them out. Now let's get into today's video. All right, let's kick off this video with my top 3 contenders. We'll talk about the other 3 after this section of the video. So I'll rank the top 3 contenders 1 through 3, and I don't think there's going to be many surprises in this top 3 ranking. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below as usual. But number 1, the front runners, in my opinion, and I'm sure many of you guys watching as well, by far, without a doubt, is the Ryan Reynolds Remington Group bid. There's no doubt about it. They are the front runners to be the next owners of your Ottawa Senators. And that's not just my opinion. That has been reported from Bruce Garriock of the Ottawa Sun. They are the perceived front runners, and they are expected, the group of Ryan Reynolds and Remington Group, are expected to bid for over $1 billion for the Ottawa Senator franchise. This, if it's approved, would be the largest ever sale of a National Hockey League franchise in NHL history. There's never been a franchise in NHL history before to be sold for over $1 billion. This would be the first time, and it would be a historic purchase at that, because once again, I just want to mention this right now, the groups that are bidding on the Ottawa Senators are not only bidding on the franchise, they're bidding on all the assets around the franchise. So that's of course the Belleville Senators, this Canadian Tire Center, and all the land around it. So there's a lot of money and value here with this organization, with of course, you know, the hockey franchise itself, but other things as well, like land, the AHL, etc. But once again, back to Ryan Reynolds. He's the front runner without a doubt. I mean, without a doubt. Look, Ryan Reynolds has a local feel to him. He lived here in Ottawa in the Vanier area. He loves it here. He considers it a second home, and he's Canadian. These are important things for a new owner because you don't want to have an owner that's from outside looking in. You want to have an owner that's hands-on from this community and understands what this community needs and understands what this community wants to build a successful hockey team. Now, on top of that, Gary Bettman, the NHL commissioner, has already mentioned that he wants Ryan Reynolds to be a part of the future ownership group of the Ottawa Senators, putting him basically in the driver's seat to be the next owner of the Ottawa Senators. I mean, if you get an endorsement from the NHL commissioner, it's very hard, no matter how much money the other groups put out there, to outbid or to outperform Ryan Reynolds. On top of all that, and you know, the endorsement from NHL commissioner Gary Bettman, it's been reported from Elliot Freeman, like the most trusted source in hockey, that the Melnyk family, which of course has, like I already mentioned, the deciding say in who is going to be the next owner of the Ottawa Senators, essentially, the Board of Governors approval process is basically a formality. So because of that, Elliot Freeman reported the other day that Ryan Reynolds and the Melnick family are sort of aligned. They're kind of on the same page here, and it really shows that Reynolds and his group with Remington Group, the real estate firm, are the front runners, without a doubt. They have the ear of the Melnick family. They have the ear of local sponsors here as well, led by Jeff York, a farm boy. So Ryan Reynolds is building good faith here locally already, which proves to me that he's by far the front runner. Of course, the NHL wants him to be there, but, it looks like the Melnick family wants him to be there too, and that's really the most important development over the last few weeks in terms of ownership. So that was huge to me to hear that he's already spoken and kind of agreed with local investors in terms of building a consortium to build a new ownership group here in Ottawa. But as well, and this is really striking to me, the alignment with the Melnick family. I think that's key. If the Melnick family likes what they hear from Ryan Reynolds, that puts them even more in the driver's seat, and he's by far the front runner to be the next owner of the Ottawa Senators. Now, like I just mentioned, he is a local to Ottawa, lived and grew up in Vanier, but I also want to mention that Ryan Reynolds has that local feel to him as well, which is so important for any successful franchise. The ownership has to understand what their fan base and their local city cares about, wants, and believes in. They have to. Otherwise, there's going to be a bit of a disconnection there. There's no doubt about it. We've had that before. We can't have that again here in Ottawa. So Ryan Reynolds checks off all the boxes in terms of localness and, willingness to be part of the community. But in terms of marketability, Ryan Reynolds is one of the most famous actors in the world. Just look at what he's done with Wrexham FC and how he's absolutely turned around that English soccer program into a premier program that was not only promoted this year, but has made international headlines. It was a small program, and he turned them into a massive, well-known soccer team. And not only that, just take a look at the success of his Wrexham FC documentary series. This is something that he'll definitely be bringing to Ottawa. There's going to be a documentary series around the Ottawa Senators if Ryan Reynolds is the winning bid. And that is huge, not only for marketability, like I just said, but just promoting the players from inside the locker room, building that connection between the fan base and the team. It's so crucial, especially over the last few years when there's been a bit of a separation between the organization and the fan base. That's been repaired as of late, and Ryan Reynolds would put the final band-aid on that and really bring the two together. There's no doubt about it, in my opinion. And of course, look, the documentary thing is really exciting to me. Getting to see an inside glimpse of the Ottawa Senators, how they're run, the guys in the locker room, all that stuff is always cool. But as well, just for marketability, again, a lot of people that don't know the Ottawa Senators or don't even know hockey are going to be interested in both because of Ryan Reynolds and his involvement with the franchise, which is so huge. Once again, the Ottawa Senators are stuck between Montreal and Toronto, two of the biggest hockey markets in the world. So having a guy like Ryan Reynolds in your corner will be huge to make a name for themselves here in Ottawa. Now, the last thing I'll mention is, look, Christopher Brady, the representative of the Remington Group, the leading face there, this is a real estate firm that's one of the largest in Canada for a reason. They've been involved with like the Arizona Coyotes and potentially relocating a team to Hamilton. They've been involved in the National Hockey League process with arenas and relocation and ownership for quite some time. So they know what they're doing. But more importantly, Ryan Reynolds, he's had so much success everywhere else, but he doesn't really know how to build an arena. He doesn't really know how to build an entertainment district. That's where Remington Group comes in. There's a reason they're one of the largest real estate firms in the country, and there's no doubt about it that this group is serious. They have the money, of course, but more importantly, they have the experience and knowledge and capability to build a world-renowned entertainment district here in Ottawa, and that is key. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the franchise sale is not just the franchise, it's the land, it's a future arena, it's what you're going to do with Canadian Tire Centre after as well. It's not only the sale of the franchise, it's the sale of quite a bit real estate as well. So you want to have people that know what they're doing and know how to build a world-renowned entertainment district, and that's exactly what the Remington Group can do. So I think by far, without a doubt, Ryan Reynolds and Remington Group are the leading candidates because look, once again, just to recap, Ryan Reynolds, local feel, has had a lot of success, world-renowned, famous actor, once again, has some deep pockets as well, and is favored by Gary Bettman and the Melnick family, and as well, Remington Group has a lot of experience in real estate and development, and those two things are key for a successful new ownership group of the Ottawa Senators and the requirements they need. So by far, this is the leading group in my opinion. But now let's take a look at the runner-up candidates who as well have a very good shot at winning the bid. Now the runner-up to be the future owner of the Ottawa Senators is a bit of a surprise. I was going to have my third option as number 2 for this video, but some news that dropped today from Ian Mendes changed things quite a bit. Now, maybe I'm biased, maybe I'm a little Excited because of the big name that's been added to this group, but I also think with the money backed up behind it and looking more into it, it does make sense for them to be the number 2 bid out of the top 6. So let's take a look at this. The Neko Sparks group. Now look, this is a really interesting group, and it's been a really interesting one from the beginning. We didn't know much. Neko Sparks, he's a billionaire. He's an LA-based entrepreneur in the tech industry. And once again, we didn't really know much up until today about those in the consortium in the bid with Neko Sparks, but we heard a lot of rumors like The Rock and The Weeknd and other celebrities potentially being involved with Neko Sparks. But today, a report from Ian Mendes broke the hockey and frankly entertainment world. Snoop Diggity Dogg wants to be potentially the next owner of your Ottawa Senators, and I can't believe I just said that. What world are we living in where Ryan Reynolds and Snoop Dogg want to both be the future owners of the Ottawa Senators? I mean, what the hell is going on? This is insane. I mean, are we living in a simulation or something? This is absolutely insane. Ryan Reynolds and Snoop Dogg, arguably some of the most famous people in the world, want to own your Ottawa Senators. I just can't wrap my mind around it. It's absolutely insane. And to think less than 5 years ago, people are talking about relocating this franchise. How wrong they were and how wrong they were about this market is unbelievable. But anyways, back to the Neko Sparks group. I mean, once again, this was always an interesting group to me. Firstly, Neko Sparks, if he won this bid, he would be the first ever black man to be an owner of the Ottawa Senators, which would be really cool, of course. But if you take a look at the group itself, I mean, Snoop Dogg, just like Ryan Reynolds, has international fame. I mean, everyone knows Snoop Dogg, of course. I mean, if you ask your mom, you ask your dad, they'll know who Snoop Dogg is, right? So everyone knows Snoop Dogg. So he brings that to the table, just like Ryan Reynolds. But if we take a closer look at the Neko Sparks bid, they have a lot of money in this bid. I mean, a lot of money. Probably the deepest pockets involved in this bidding process compared to the other 6 groups. They're backed by $15 billion internationally from Canada, the US, and the UK. They got a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. So money is not an issue for this group whatsoever. If they bought the team, they would have deep pockets, and that franchise can absolutely run. There's no doubt about it. Now, I mention that now because, look, many of you guys in the comments before when we've discussed future ownership have mentioned, look, your big concern is money. Will the new ownership group have enough money? Now, I mentioned, Neko Sparks and the bid having $15 billion backing it because, once again, this shouldn't be an issue with them. There's no doubt about it. But I mentioned that early because that's not even the most interesting part about this bid. And that's why I think it's number 2 in my opinion, because this bid has a lot going for it, I'll be honest with you, and it's not just the money. The bid has Mattias Nordstrom involved. He's a close friend of Daniel Alfredsson, and he will be a part of the hockey advisory side of things. Now, Alfredsson has not been confirmed to pick a group according to Ian Mendes. Neko Sparks, has left the door open for Daniel Alfredsson to be part of the group in any, capacity he wants. Of course, who wouldn't want Daniel Alfredsson being part of your group? He's an absolute legend here in Ottawa, if you couldn't tell. But, once again, Neko Sparks having a guy like Mattias Nordstrom and Snoop Dogg involved shows legitimacy behind the bid. It's not just flashing money out there. He's committed to building, an ownership group and a franchise to win. Mattias Nordstrom, former NHL guy, he knows what he's doing. Of course, Snoop Dogg, big-time investor, big-time successful artist and entrepreneur in his own right as well. So those are a couple of really interesting names involved in the Neko Sparks bid. And the last thing I want to mention, Snoop Dogg in this Ian Mendes article has the goal of making hockey much more accessible for all communities. Snoop, quote unquote, is intrigued by the possibility of growing and marketing hockey to families from diverse backgrounds in the Ottawa area and beyond, who haven't necessarily been targeted by the sport in the past. This is really, really important to me, and many of you, I'm sure. Hockey has, for quite some time, been a sport that's been difficult for a lot of people to play because it's so expensive to play. Unlike baseball or soccer, where you just pick up a ball, you pick up a bat. Hockey, you got to buy all this equipment. It's so expensive. So a lot of communities, a lot of people out there just can't afford it. So Snoop Dogg having the commitment to work with the community to grow the game is such a beautiful thing, and that really is intriguing to me because just like Ryan Reynolds, an attractive thing about him is that community, bond that it will have with the city. Snoop Dogg and this group brings the exact same thing, not only for Ottawa but for the entire world potentially, with Snoop Dogg there trying to grow the game for all communities, which I think is a beautiful thing. And as well, Snoop Dogg mentioned, and Ian Mendes mentioned this in the article, but Snoop Dogg potentially would be joining TSN for broadcasts and stuff like he did in LA, which I mean would be absolutely insane to be watching a Sens game middle of January and then Snoop Dogg is on your screen. Sign me up. So the Neko Sparks group, in my opinion, is not the front runners, but they're absolutely in second place and have a very good shot to, be the next owners of the Ottawa Senators, not only because they're backed by a tremendous amount of financial capability, $15 billion. They have some legit names like Snoop Dogg, Matthias Nordstrom, and of course Neko Sparks is a successful entrepreneur in his own right, but they as well already have sort of some goals in mind for the franchise in terms of on and off the ice success. On the ice with Matthias Nordstrom, potentially Daniel Alfredsson, and then off the ice with Snoop Dogg and building hockey in all communities. Now with that, let's take a look at the third ranked group in my opinion. Now, number 3 on this list is Michael Andlauer's bid to the Ottawa Senators. Now, look, Michael Andlauer used to be the quote-unquote front-runner in this process. If you look back to articles in, November and December of last year, in, 2022, Michael Andlauer was quote-unquote the front-runner, and that makes sense. When you really look at it, it makes a lot of sense. And if it wasn't for big names like Ryan Reynolds and Snoop Dogg and billions of dollars over there, Michael Andlauer would absolutely be the front-runner in this process. He's been involved in hockey for quite some time and has a proven track record in the hockey world. He owns 25% of the Montreal Canadiens and has represented the Habs at Board of Governor meetings, so he knows the ins and outs of how NHL franchises run. That gives him a massive advantage over Remington, Ryan Reynolds, and the Neko Sparks group because he already has a foot in the door in NHL ownership. So that is a huge advantage for him. On top of that, he has a lot of money of his own, billions of dollars. There's no doubt about it. He'll have enough money to operate the Ottawa Senators. But I just don't think he has enough pizzazz, if that makes sense, to really attract the Melnyk family and the board of directors and the organization to pick him over the other two groups. Look, the other two groups bring marketability, they bring real estate ability, they bring all these different things. Michael Andlauer brings stability and experience, but Neko Sparks, his group, Ryan Reynolds, his group, they both have experience building businesses. What Michael Andlauer is missing is the real estate side of things, which I'm sure he can hire somebody. But the reality is, look, Michael Andlauer absolutely brings a lot of experience, but nothing really else. And Neko Sparks and, Ryan Reynolds, both of those groups have plenty of experience of their own. So it's not like they're missing out experience if they don't pick those two groups. And after that, after experience and having, the ins and outs of the NHL and how it works, there's not really much else there. I'm sorry. Michael Andlauer doesn't have anyone else in his group, from what we've been told, that, can put himself atop of the Ryan Reynolds group or the Neko Sparks group. Both groups that I just mentioned, Neko Sparks and Ryan Reynolds, had different elements to them that make them quite attractive for on the ice and off the ice here in Ottawa. Michael Andlauer just has experience, which is of course really, really important, but when you're competing with other groups, which as well have a lot of experience, it doesn't really make him stand out compared to the other two groups. So I think he's the third leading candidate. I would not be shocked if he somehow won the bid, but I definitely think it's a long shot compared to the other two. But once again, Michael Andlauer, I believe, reached out to Ryan Reynolds in the past about, making him join his group. So maybe there's a possibility where Michael Andlauer joins a consortium with Ryan Reynolds or Neko Sparks, whoever the winning bid is. Because look, I don't doubt that, Michael Andlauer wants to be part of the ownership group. So I think that possibility absolutely exists. But him winning the bid outright and being the new owner, I just don't see happening. I think he's by far the third option, but definitely not out of the race. Now let's take a look at the other three candidates, and we'll talk about them briefly about why they have a slight chance as well to be selected as the next owners of your Ottawa Senators. Now that we've taken a look at the top three candidates, in my opinion, to be the next owners of the Ottawa Senators, let's take a look at the other three candidates. Now look, these candidates absolutely have a chance to be the next owners of the Ottawa Senators. They have deep pockets themselves, but I don't know if they're going to be the next owners of the team, and I can't really speculate either because we don't know much about them. I want to preface this by saying we don't know much about these three groups. That's why they're in the bottom half of this list, in my opinion. We just don't know much, and when you don't know much, it's kind of hard to kind of gauge, whether or not you like them, whether or not you think they'd be a good fit here. We just don't have the information. So I'll go through each very briefly just to give you an idea of the other candidates involved in this process. So Jeffrey and Michael Kimmel, who own the Harlow Capital Group and recently sold their share in the Pittsburgh Penguins, are as well involved in this process. Like I just mentioned, former owners of the Pittsburgh Penguins, they as well have real estate ties. So just like Remington Group, they would have the ability to potentially build a world-renowned entertainment district here in Ottawa. But, just like Michael Andlauer, the Kimmels have experience in the National Hockey League, world. They have connections that absolutely gives them the upper edge over some of the other names on this list without a doubt. Toronto billionaire Steve Apostolopoulos, who recently made a $6 billion bid for the NFL's Washington Commanders. So once again, just like other names on this list, there's no doubt about it that he will have deep pockets to operate the Ottawa Senators franchise. His family is as well one of the most rich families in Canada, so there's no doubt about it. He would have the financial capabilities to successfully operate the Ottawa Senators. Because look, if you look at his business resume, the guy clearly knows how to build a business and operate a business. He's one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country, and his family has a deep root in real estate. So there's no doubt that if he got the bid and bought the Ottawa Senators, they would be in good hands. But just like a lot of other members that I've already named, I'm going to name after him, look, they just seem to have a lot of things going on. The only group that I truly like, and the reason they're number one, is Ryan Reynolds and the Remington group, because they seem to be committed to Ottawa, not just the community around or just hockey or just the real estate. They seem to be committed to growing hockey in Ottawa. They're focused on buying the Ottawa Senators. That is what I love about the Ryan Reynolds and Remington group. They have a local connection. Every other group here, they have the financial backing, they got the big names, they got all of that great stuff, but they just don't seem to have that, itch to really grow hockey in Ottawa like the first group. So, I don't mean to be rude or belittle the other groups here. This is just my personal preference of what I've seen and how I've kind of interpreted things. But number one is Reynolds and Remington purely because of that. They don't have all these different things going on like the Sparks group or like, him or like the Kimmels or like whatever, or Andler, whatever. They're solely focused on building the Ottawa Senators, and that's what I truly like about them. So, with him being involved in the Commanders, he's been also involved potentially in purchasing the Charlotte Hornets of the NBA. It just kind of looks like he's really interested in buying a sports franchise no matter where it is. And that's all great and all, do your thing, but I want an owner that wants to be here because it's Ottawa and he believes in this city. Not saying that he doesn't believe in Ottawa, but with Ryan Reynolds and the Remington group, they believe in the city. And they believe in building hockey here in Ottawa. So a little bit of a tangent there, but look, this is another attractive name, of course. He's got the financial backing. It's just, other than the first group, the Reynolds group, every other group has a lot going for it, but they just don't give me that feeling that they want to be in Ottawa and they're committed to growing the game in Ottawa. It kind of just seems like they're excited about potentially, joining a pro sports franchise. That's exciting and all, but I'm looking for somebody that's committed to Ottawa and building hockey in Ottawa. Now, the last bid I'll mention in this video is the bid led by Vivek Ranadive, the owner of the NBA's Sacramento Kings. Now, look, Vivek is an interesting case. Look, he only entered the bid very, very late. He entered this process like 10 days ago or whatever, so very late in the process, but there's no doubt about it. He operates the Sacramento Kings and spends a lot of money there in Sacramento, and there's no doubt he has deep pockets. He's a billionaire for a reason, guys. He has a lot of money, but King fans on Twitter and online and whatever have warned me that he has an inept ability to operate the Sacramento Kings franchise. There's been a lot of turmoil, a lot of drama. There's been a lot of unsuccessful seasons there as well. They had the longest playoff drought, I believe, in the NBA up until this year. There's been not a lot of success, a lot of money wasted on players out of their prime, big name guys. It just seems sort of like a clown show there in Sacramento, and that's something I would personally want to avoid. I'm sure Vivek is a nice guy. There's no doubt about that. I haven't heard anything bad about him personally. But you know what? We don't need another clown show around here in Ottawa. We've had that for far too long over the last couple of decades. Give me some stability. And Vivek does not appear to be able to bring stability. That is why he's last on the list. Now, besides that, in conclusion, in my opinion, it looks like Ryan Reynolds and the Remington group are absolutely going to win this bidding process. But Neko Sparks and the Andler groups will give them a run for their money without a doubt. At the end of the day, it's up to the Melnick family and the organization's board of directors to decide, and Reynolds seems to have the inside advantage on that. Besides that, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Who would you rather have as the future owner? Ryan Reynolds, Neko Sparks, and Snoop Dogg, Michael Andlauer, even other guys. Let me know who you think in the comment section down below as usual. I look forward to commenting and responding with you guys down there. Besides that, thank you all for watching. I'll see you later this week. Talk soon. Go Sens, go.